Kate Northrup on the Money Love Story series. I'm the author of the book Money, a Love Story. And I'm here with Gina DeVee, who is a lifestyle expert and teaches women about divine living and using their femininity and their feminine power, especially when it comes to creating the lifestyle they desire and an amazing business. So she specifically focuses on those two aspects. She is just a delicious, yummy woman who's always traveling the world, talking about amazing locations she's traveling to, amazing food, relationships, all of it. So I'm so happy to have you here, Gina. Thanks for being on.
Oh, Kate, it's a true delight, a true delight.
I'm actually here on your website just looking at the most adorable photo of you with the sunglasses in Milan. So anyway, if you want a feast for your eyes, head over to GinaDeVee.com, and that's DEVEE. But Gina, I'd love to know what you learned about money growing up. You seem to have a really abundant, yummy, juicy life, and I'd love to know kind of what was the foundation, and was there a foundation for that in your growing up, or was that something that you created over time?
Yes, my yummy, abundant life started out being the daughter of two school teachers outside of Detroit. So, and being growing up also in a fairly conservative Christian community. So between being the Midwest school teacher, a Christian, and Italian, where like it's the absolute virtue to see how far you can stretch a dollar. Sundays were sort of double coupon Sundays at the grocery store, and, we weren't rich and we weren't poor, but everything was about stretching the dollar and saving your money or being a good steward of your money. And so as a young girl who always had big dreams and being drawn towards the glamorous, I've gone through quite a transformation just even in what I allow for myself and have allowed to be true for me. So where shall we begin with that?
That's amazing. So, I'd love to know just how that, as you got older and kind of left the nest, how did that upbringing impact you as you kind of got out into the real world as an adult?
Sure. It was definitely a progression. I was taught you go to college and you get a job. So that was the sort of mentality. I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur or a business owner or making money. That was a very foreign concept to me. And so I did go to college, and I did get a job. I got my master's degree in clinical psychology and became a psychotherapist, and I thought I got a job. I didn't realize that I became an entrepreneur when I became a service-based professional. And, I thought if you worked harder that you'd make more money. And so I was, about 30 years old, living at home with my parents, living off of about $24,000 a year, working 75 hours a week, seeing clients, marketing for the clinic, just thought give, work, and that was somehow going to get me ahead in life. And I remember my mom used to always tell me, Gina, you need to learn to live within your means. And so that sounded reasonable enough, right? And so I remember I was like masterminding before I knew what masterminding was with my college roommate, and we were like both so strapped financially, and we're like, how are we going to make more money? And finally, like we were like trying to pay off debts and student loans and like not use our credit cards so much. And finally I just said to her, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to learn how to live on $24,000 a year. Like I was like spending all my time trying to figure out how to live within those means. And so much of it was just really a progression in me allowing me to have the desires that I did have, that I was squelching, and that I do have today. And so from there, I went from being a clinical psychotherapist into a life coach, then getting into a success coach and all about women's empowerment. And even there was a bit of a transformation, because as much as women's empowerment lights me up, so does lifestyle and all of what I feel it is to be an empowered woman, which is certainly having your femininity in tune, but also whatever lights you up, having beautiful clothes or travel or having a beautiful home where you live. And so I had to really, I think, ultimately claim my desires and get honest with myself about what they were, because coming from a spiritual community or a personal development community, I thought the focus was supposed to be all about women's empowerment, which it is very much for me, and it is also about these lifestyle pieces. And I think when I got honest with myself internally and then publicly, that's where a huge transformation with my own money story occurred.
Yeah, that's such a huge piece, the honesty, telling the truth about your desires, like you said, and saying, I don't actually want to learn how to live on $24,000 a year. And how did you experience any pushback from that in your community, with your family or your friends, or?
Totally. It was so taboo. It's not what people talked about. It's not what other people's focuses were. And, within the spiritual and personal development communities, at least the ones that I were in, there was a bit of an elitism about what your desires are supposed to be, and, and for me, it wasn't an either or as much as it was a both and that was somehow illegal in the space. And so I had to create my own space. But then when I did, of course, I found so many other women that have the same desires, and it wasn't so alien. And the more I said it out loud, the more I either found other women who are already saying it out loud, or women who are coming out of the woodwork and saying and whispering, I didn't know I could have that too. So I've yet to meet a woman these days that doesn't have the desire for the total experience, whatever that looks like in her life, and I don't think it's just so one-sided any longer.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. So where's been the moments that, I mean, obviously you talked about the time living at your parents' and working 75 hours a week and making $24,000 a year. I mean, that sounds like a challenging time. As you built your business and kind of went into coaching, life coaching and lifestyle and all of that, were there any moments that were really a struggle financially, just either, actual not having enough or just struggling even with raising your rates or living abundantly?
Sure. All of the above. The hardest rate that I ever raised was, when I was a psychotherapist, supposedly the rate was $100 an hour for the session. But I never got that, because as soon as it came time to talk about the money, before someone could even say anything, I was like, my rates are $100 an hour, but I offer sliding scale rates. It was like I couldn't even allow the normal rate to come in. So that was where my wealth consciousness, or lack thereof, was at the time, and self-esteem and visibility and all that comes with that. And so then I remember I did raise it to $115 an hour, and the hardest stretch that I made was raising my rates from $115 to $125 an hour. I remember the terror inside me, because at the time in my community, PhD level psychologists made $125 an hour, not master's level. So there was all this thick. It sounds ridiculous to actually say this out loud, and if you don't know that industry, or it's not the same in yours, it may sound ridiculous. That was I remember it was excruciating. It was stepping into a stretch. It was getting out of the box. It was really, it was like me leaving the nest in that realm, so to speak, because then it was $150 an hour, $600 for a package, and then the rates just kept going up as my frequency raised.
Nice. And as you say that, I love as your frequency raised. So can you talk a little bit about how you raised your frequency?
I stayed really closely connected with my desires. Money is currency and currency is energy. And when I really got that it is all energy, you can look at anything. You can go to you can look at the frequency of food, right? You can look at processed food, or you can look at like really whole foods, organic foods, and there's a different frequency between a non-organic carrot and an organic carrot.
Yeah.
And there is with the clothes that we put on our body, right? It's not about the designer label as much as it really is the frequency of the clothing. This same, you can go to, we judge it and label it as a 3-star hotel or a 5-star hotel, and yet you really can feel the frequency of when you walk in. I remember one of my client groups, I have this group had a group called the Benevolent Queen Group, and it was all about becoming queen in your life. Anyways, I took them on a wine tasting, and it was even to the degree of the cheaper bottle of wine versus the more expensive bottle of wine. I remember this one client, she was like, I can like feel and taste the frequency, and so I think that as I got more in tune and more honest with my truthful desires, I never had a thing about keeping up with the Joneses. It wasn't like, it's not like I saw someone have a big house, so I wanted a big house, and it wasn't authentic to me. It was more about, if I went to someone's home that was big and spacious and decorated in a way that was expressive to me and lit me up, and if I then compared it to, let's say, when I was living in my little Santa Monica apartment with acquired furniture, I was like, wow, it just like the frequency didn't match who I was choosing to be in the world and who I desired to be. So I've used lifestyle to lead me very often in my own personal development based on the frequency levels.
I love that. That's really an interesting concept that I haven't thought consciously about. So I like that a lot. And when you're working with women, whether in groups or one-on-one or whatever, how do you help them use their feminine energy and their feminine power when it comes to creating more abundance and making more money?
It seems to be the theme here today is desire, and that is where I start, because when a woman is connected to her desire, not that she needs to make money to pay the rent or feed her kids, or coming from some sort of scared place or even purely masculine place, of just from a logical linear approach, when she's really in her desire, that is the feminine. And then from the feminine place, then there's the miracle-mindedness, and that's where spaciousness is, and that's where abundance is. And, we know that the masculine energies are meant to be in service to the feminine. And so if we're talking about business building, I really do start with the feminine and then only use just the amount of masculine structures or effort that is needed to actually be in service to the feminine, whether it's the vision or the desires, or the lifestyle. So I find that when those roles get reversed, when we go more into massive action versus inspired action, then women get burnt out and it gets tight and the money gets scarce. And so really staying in the spaciousness and the frequency, it's from that place that there is flow and there genuinely is attraction. And that's where I've found that true wealth shows up, wealth of time, wealth of cash, wealth of living a beautiful life.
That's so lovely. That's so lovely. And so would you, based on what I know about you and kind of witnessing your online presence and just your energy, it sounds like you really are having, in some one way or another, a love affair with life for sure, and quite possibly a love affair with money. Like you're in a relationship with money that really works for you and is really nourishing. Is that true?
It is. Today it is. This was, my money story was, some people have a food story or a body image or relationship thing. My biggest wounding, my biggest source of fear, my largest place of feeling disempowered for sure was all around money. I felt like I could do anything but make money, and therefore that became my truth for well over a decade. And I would watch myself manifest different experiences. Like I worked at the White House or the Supreme Court, Harvard Institute of Politics with Marianne Williamson. Like I married my soulmate. Like all of these different areas of my life worked except for me creating my own wealth. And then one day I made the decision that I realized it was about a relationship, and I said that I was going to transform my relationship with money no matter what it took. Like no matter how long it took, like it was just like I was done struggling, and I really chose to discover and learn what this money-making thing was about. I thought it was about making money at the time, and so that's where it started. And now it is, they always say that the place of our wounds or brokenness, when we heal it properly, becomes the area of our strength. And so I feel very grateful, very blessed today that I'm in tune with money. Like, probably like a person with maybe weight issues who like no longer gets on the scale or counts calories. Like, I don't it used to be every day I'd go into my online checking and like see a negative $300 there, like insufficient fund fees and stuff. And now I'm not recommending this, people. This is just my own path. I don't even look at it. Like it's all really intuitive. Like I know when it's time to create some wealth or market some programs, and I know when I can go and spend a certain amount on clothes if I want to, and it's and what's not like depriving myself and what's not a binge. So it's really quite a fluid relationship at this point.
It's so beautiful. I really love the way you've shared about your abundance and creating wealth for yourself coming from that feminine place of desire. It's really, it just feels so wonderful to seep into that truth. So I really, really appreciate you sharing your story, and I do recommend that you check out GinaDeVee.com. If you're interested in hearing more money love stories, head over to moneyalovestory.com, and you can hear more interviews and see some videos there as well. And all of this is in service of launching my book, Money, a Love Story. And when you purchase the book, you can get access to a free 2-hour online event called A Course in Having Enough, where I will be featuring guest experts, Marianne Williamson, Barbara Stanny, and Amanda Steinberg, founder of thedailyworth.com. So thank you so much for coming on, Gina. I really appreciate you being part of this project and for sharing your beautiful story today. It's quite inspiring.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun, Kate. Best of luck with the book. It sounds just beautiful.
Thank you.